Welcome to the Social Brokers podcast. Now, today I have with me Daniel Clow from Rayner Personnel Financial Services. If you've spent any time on LinkedIn over the last, I would probably say 3 or 4 months, maybe a bit further back than that, you'll definitely recognise his face. The only thing that you might not see here is he's normally like a bright green and a black, and that's the way I see him on LinkedIn. So he's got a lovely little blue dining room study area there. Now, Daniel, so what he did is after working in the mortgage broker field for the last 7 years, he set up, along with Josh Rayner, he set up Rayner Personnel Financial Services Recruitment. So it's a financial services arm of the recruitment business. And what these guys do is they work tirelessly to help companies find the right fit with their staff. Now, the reason we wanted to get Daniel on today was to talk about a couple of things. The first thing, which I know loads of you guys listening have that internal struggle about, is whether you, when you get to the size, should you hire an experienced admin or should you go for another broker, and the financial implications of that as well. Second thing that we're going to talk about is, again, something I know that's on a lot of brokers, on people's minds at the moment, is should I go self-employed or should I look at the different ways that you can go self-employed? Now, I'm no expert in that, so that's exactly why I've got Daniel on. So, Daniel, welcome to the podcast.
Brilliant, thank you. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Awesome to have you on. So we've been speaking for a few months now, and I think we've had a few dates thrown about, and we've eventually got you on here. So so great to have you on. Now, the first thing I like to do with anybody that comes on the podcast is for you to give us a bit of a background of who you are, where you've come from, and how you've got to where you are today.
Perfect, thank you. So, I won't go too far back. I'll start with my mortgage life, really. So, I was a trainee mortgage broker after doing banking. So, I did that banking to broking that we talk about when we say trainee mortgage broker in a corporate. Worked my way through the ranks within that. Went to another corporate, did 18 months there. Learned how to be a bit of a sales manager. Did sort of a player manager role, and then I went back to my foundation of Just Mortgages and did a divisional sales director role there for the last couple of years. That's where it brought me up to when I then left to go into business with Josh and do this.
So you've got obviously a really seasoned background in the industry. So when did you start? 2000 so 7 years, so 2017, 16, 17 was it?
So I think it was the beginning of 17 is when I first started as a trainee broker. I had my CMAP prior to that because I did it in the bank at Santander. But the actual broker world started in 2017.
Okay, awesome. So the good thing is, with you being at Just Mortgages and being the manager of people, you've probably seen a lot of people come and go. You've worked out why people leave and why people might want to join. So great industry for you to be in. How has it been, I suppose, how has it been that shift from having that mortgage mindset into that side of things where you have to think about placing somebody? Because I suppose there's some things that cross over, but something completely different, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there are things that cross over, certainly, in terms of I'm still speaking to the same people. I'm still talking to brokers and managers, etc., and we're still talking all that mortgage jargon that we talk. But the mindset is very different, because I think what's great in this, there are so many things, but what's great now is I'm seeing such an array, how diverse this industry is. Whereas I think what's really easy is to sit within your bubble and know what's going on there, but not really always see the bigger picture. And that bubble is different for everyone. But what was great the first couple of months of this is so many of those moments, and okay, so they do it that way, or they do this way. And I guess what was good was some of the things that I was thinking I'd love to have done this, or I'd love to have done that, that couldn't do because it's within a structure which is absolutely fine. Other places are doing. So it was almost like, I was right. That's what I wanted to do there.
Yeah. So you're sat in Just Mortgages and you're thinking, I'd love to do this, and this with staff, but their, as you said, their guidance is that you can't do that. I think very similar. I work for a big corporate estate agent, and I remember back in 2014, I was in a branch. It was in Northfield Dixons, and I set up a Facebook page, an Instagram page, and a Twitter page. Right. I was like, guys, as an estate agent, this office, we need to take it forward. Set them all up. The morning after, had an email from HR saying we've closed them all down. You're not allowed them. Then I went to an independent and I was like, I'm going to set up socials. They're like, yeah, just go for it. Anything that bring business. And I suppose it's that shift of mindset, isn't it, between the two?
It is, and I always want to make sure that I'm cautious to say that actually I think that corporate world is fantastic for some people, and I loved my time there.
Okay.
And look, the people we're talking about are very, very successful, right? So you've got Dixon's there, you've got Just Mortgages. These are successful businesses that have been going for a long time and will continue to go for a long time. So I think that what they
Not
do,
to bash them.
no, look, what they do is fantastic in their words, just not right for everyone. Equally, a small independent wouldn't be right for someone. They'd do much better with that corporate structure and what that brings. So I think that's what I see as a recruiter is it's not one size fits all. It's very much let's put you with the place that's going to be right for you.
Yeah, good put. Yeah, because I, as an estate agent learning the trade, it would have been really hard to go into an independent. Do you know what I mean? And try and learn that trade. It's better off going to a big corporate. So that's obviously what you're good at, is placing people. Okay, so let's get into the crux of it then. So I'm a mortgage business owner, and I have myself. I've been doing appointments all day. I'm trying to sort out cases. I'm trying to do social media. I'm literally run off my feet. My partner's shouting at me, going, "We want to go on holiday, but every time we go on holiday, you're always on your bloody laptop." So I'm now at the point where I go, right, I can go two ways here. I can either hire another broker to help me take on some of these leads and some of the admin, or I hire a dedicated admin support member of staff. Which way do I go?
Look, if it was that easy to answer from just that sentence, I think it wouldn't be podcast worthy, would it? But it's really difficult. It's really difficult, and it's what we've been speaking about. And I think where this comes into play is where the owner of the business is still the biggest writer in that business. So whether they've got one broker, two brokers, three brokers, and they're still writing business, they're still the biggest writer of business in there. It's and I work with a few brokerages that are in that position, and the conversation is really sometimes it's as simple as, well, what do you want to do? What do you prefer doing? Would you like to step away from broking, just do the business development and go out and lead source, go out and find leads and build this brokerage, or have you become this big almost accidentally just because you're very good at what you do? Instead of having that mindset of I want to grow, sometimes people are just so good at what they do, suddenly they're sat there and they're inundated. And you meet those people that go, well, I love it, Dan. I absolutely love seeing customers. I've got my back book of customers. I don't want anyone else seeing them. And in that instance, carry on doing what you love and get an admin in to do the bits that you don't love. So that for me is quite a simple fix. If it's I want to build a brokerage here, Dan, I envisage having 10, 15, 20 brokers. I want to take over the world. Well, you can't do that by being the biggest writer of business in your business yourself. So what you're going to have to do is give away some slices of that pie in order to be able to grow, and you'll do that with additional brokers.
I really like that. I suppose it's going back to that thing. It's every unique situation, isn't it? But I suppose it's looking inward instead of people listening to you for the answer of, do I go admin or do I go mortgage broker? I suppose the best thing is to have a conversation with you, and you almost become a bit of a therapist then, don't you? It's like, what do you actually want, Johnny? Do you want to be a mortgage broker, or do you want to build a business? I think a lot of people do fall into that trap of they've almost built a business by mistake, almost. Not that it's a bad thing, but they've got that busy that they've almost got 3 members of staff and gone, oh, where do I actually go next?
That's such a backhanded compliment, isn't it? So you're so good at what you do, you don't realise that suddenly you wake up one day and you've got this brokerage. It's not just I use the same name you. It's not just Johnny Mortgages. You've got this brokerage now, and it's a real. When you say that to some people, you don't want them to get offended because actually it's a huge compliment. You are incredible at what you do. So this has happened. You haven't gone out and planned this, this, and this. It's just done what you've done, and look what you've got. So it's a really difficult one that I don't think there's a one size fits all answer, which I think is great because it's good to have options. And it really depends on what the ultimate goal is and what. Look, if it's your business, what do you want to do? What's the point in running your own business and not
Yeah.
doing it the way you want it? What's the point in running the business and doing the bits that you don't like doing? Surely run a business and do the bits that you do like doing.
Yeah, love it, love it. So, if I'm a mortgage broker and I'm listening to this podcast at the moment, and I absolutely love writing, but I want to build a business as well, how many brokers do I need to take on to kind of write the levels of business that I'm doing? Because I've heard a few brokers say this. Like, for example, we've had Mortgage First on, and he said he had to get John Stones had to get to almost like 3 brokers to write the same business as what he was doing because he was the highest earner. What's your experience of that?
Yeah, I think it depends on where you're talking about income, as into the business, or income to you as a business owner. So, because you're going to take a slice of each of those brokers, aren't you? So, I think really you need circa 4 brokers to overtake for you to be able to completely step back from doing any business at all.
Wow, that many, God.
If you think about the slices that are offered out there, it's anywhere between 50 and 80%. And that's a real wide range, but 50 to 80% commission splits depending on where leads come from. And then you've got payaways, and then you've got you still pay yourself. You want to earn some money off the back of it. So if we're talking about completely stepping away and maintaining what would be a really strong business, I think you really would need four brokers worth of business. Where
Okay. I think that'd be really useful for people to hear that.
is the in between, isn't it? Where you've got 1 or 2. I don't think Dan Clow doing mortgages. Suddenly I bring someone else in and they do the level of business I was doing. That doesn't allow me to not do it because I've got to pay them a decent wage off the back of that. The second person I've still got to do that. The third person, then actually I've got additional running costs. Probably start thinking about different offices and stuff. The fourth person is where I think you would then start to see the benefit of it.
Yeah. Okay, that's really interesting because I've never actually had anybody on the podcast that's broken it down like that. And it's a great thing for somebody listening. If they've got 2 brokers in the business, they might have been sat there going, I should really be breaking even by now. But you've actually got somebody here that's worked in the recruitment industry, like under Just Mortgages, and helping people build their businesses, and now purely in recruitment. This is somebody who's been there, done it, and seen it. So 4 brokers is the answer. Okay, awesome. So let's talk about admin staff now. So when should I be looking at an admin staff? So I've decided that I love writing business and all I want is an admin staff.
Yeah.
At what level, either financially or numbers wise, do you think it's beneficial to hire somebody in admin?
I think that's a really that's got to be a really personal answer to each individual and what they want their own income to be, because it really depends on that. I think brokers should be able to do probably 3 or 4 mortgages and not a week, and not really need admin. It's probably a sensible number. If it starts getting more than that, I think they probably need some support to be able to help with everything else, to maintain the relationships with their clients, to properly sales progress, to chase lenders and do everything. I think they probably need admin. And then you're at a point where you probably won't see the benefit straight away of that admin. If you've got to pay out £25,000 to £30,000 basic pay to get a decent admin on board, you've got to justify that in business, haven't you? And it's whether you can justify that in business quickly enough. And again, I know I'm giving woolly answers, so I apologise, but I do think there's different for everyone, and it depends whether as a broker you go, do you know what, I want an admin, I'm happy doing what I'm doing, I'll give a slice away because I just want a bit of time back, or I want an admin, I want to go again, I want to double my business. So it really depends on them as well. I've had people that have started and got an admin straight away. So people's first hire in an admin. Some people have got to 3 brokers and then gone, I'm going to get an admin now to support those brokers.
Support those brokers, yeah. What would you say is the main? Sorry.
I was just going to say what I do think is important is that as a broker, you do have a period of time where you are doing your own admin, so you understand the role start to finish.
That's a very good point. And my next question kind of leads into that is, I know what you're going to say because you run a recruitment agency, but what are the benefits to having an actual admin member of staff compared to outsourcing admin to like an admin service? Because I know there's a few out there in the financial services sector, aren't there?
Yeah. Again, they probably have a place. Maybe that's an in between role. Can't quite afford a full admin, but want to do a bit more. So there's a place for them. But I think the real benefit is if you have an admin that's an employed member of staff, they will do things your way. So they will be your voice, won't they? So if admin is going to be speaking to your clients, you don't want them to be your clients. You want them to be our clients. So you want that admin to be as invested in that relationship with the client as you. Brokers are funny things. I was one. I had a different way of doing stuff to the broker down the road, and actually having an admin that understands that and does things your way is helpful. Some brokers want loads of help to get something to offer. Some brokers want loads of help afterwards. Personally, I believe it's a broker's job to get the mortgage offer. So I don't think that there should be. I think there's an element of support, but I think that the true admin and true support should come after the mortgage has been submitted, because I think that's a mortgage broker's. That's why we go through qualifications, right? That's a mortgage broker's role. But yeah.
Awesome. Okay, great. Just a good insight into that because it's always a conversation that comes up. Okay, so now we're going to switch to talking about mortgage brokers that might be listening to this that are maybe in an employed role and they're working for a company and they've wondered about going self-employed. So can you talk us through the different ways that somebody can be self-employed as a mortgage broker?
Yeah, I think that's really important that you say that, actually, because I think most of the time people just go self-employed is one barrier. That's it. I'm self-employed, but there's the different options of self-employed. So you get, I guess I'd start with what feels like a self-employed for tax purposes reasons. So it makes sense as for the broker to be self-employed. It makes sense for the employer to have their brokers self-employed, but ultimately they still would trade under that one title, whatever that may be. Let's call it Dan Clow Mortgages for the sake of this. They trade under Dan Clow Mortgages, but they're all individual brokers underneath there. Now that's where they'd be provided with leads. That's where they'd be provided with probably training, support, coaching, not one-to-ones. You can't do that to a self-employed person, but ultimately doing everything that you would probably be doing as an employed broker, but earning more money or more money doing it. That's the simplicity of it, being more tax efficient and earning more money doing it. So you're seeing more and more of those roles drop into the market. And those roles I don't think should feel as scary as what they perhaps do. So as soon as we say to someone that it is a self-employed role, they go, I don't want self-employed, which I understand, but I don't think those roles should be as scary from a self-employed aspect, because there is so much to it that's so similar to the employed. So that's where it starts, and then the end is I've got a mortgage brokerage with 30 brokers. I'm a self-employed broker still, aren't I? That's what I've built over time. So there's the actual going out, the true self-employed, going and hunting, gathering, building your own lead source, getting your own introducers, doing everything yourself, and being your own entity, without any of the support. That's the other
entity.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's it, isn't it? It's that differentiator between being self-employed, because I know a handful of companies that offer self-employed roles, and even within there, under the Smith's Mortgages brand, call it, you've got self-employed with leads provided.
Yep.
Or you've got self-employed where we'll look after all your compliance, we'll look after all your admin, but you need to bring your own leads in. And I suppose that's where people start on the self-employed leads given to you, but then can move over further on once you've got a bit of a back book and once you've got a bit of a funnel of leads coming in, haven't you?
Absolutely. And look, with the self-employed bit should come a little bit more flexibility. So you are self-employed. You almost earn the right to do the school drop off if you'd like to, or do the pick up, or block an hour out between 11 and 12 and go to the gym because that's something that you wanted to do. I actually think those things shouldn't necessarily be looked down on, because those people are often the ones that will do an 8 o'clock appointment in the evening as well. And that's
Yeah.
flexibility that comes with those self-employed roles is what I think is great.
Do you think if it wasn't for COVID, do you think there would be the mortgage broker role would be so dynamic in terms of time and structure and location? Was
No,
it on its way? Did you see it when you worked in it?
look, my quick answer is no. I don't think we'd be here, and if we was, it wouldn't. Well, it would
Okay,
certainly.
yeah.
I don't. I remember when it was first doing like a Zoom call, and Zoom isn't even a word that is in the vocabulary, is it? Unless you're reading a child's book
Yeah.
about a car. It wouldn't be in the vocabulary. But to go into those Zoom calls, now it's crazy to think how long this industry dealt fully face to face, as in it was all
crazy.
and I remember that we would say like a telephone appointment doesn't count as a first appointment in the corporate world, and that sort of stuff. It has to be bum on seat. You have to be sat in front of you, and I still believe that face to face is the best way to do it. Like this podcast, if we were doing this over the phone, I believe it would be not. I wouldn't be having as much fun. I don't think I'd be as bought into the. You wouldn't be as bought into me speaking to you, and it wouldn't. I don't think it would have the same effect. People may listen to this not looking at us, but I don't think it would have the same effect as what it does us. It feels like we're together, right? So that and that's the same in a mortgage appointment. So how much can you really have a full on conversation with someone talk about protection? How can you really do that over the phone? I don't believe you can really do that and really get into the nuts and bolts of what makes someone tick and what's important to them in order to adequately protect them by doing that over the phone.
Yep.
I think that should be done face to face. I class this as face to face, if I'm honest. So in my simple brain, I would class this as a face to face appointment. I can see that you're not cooking dinner whilst trying to talk to me about mortgages. I can see that you're not watching telly in the background. I can see that, and I can see that we've got each other's full attention. So for me, I class this as a face to face appointment.
Yeah, that's the way that the world has moved on. It's just interesting to speak to somebody that has been in the industry before COVID and after COVID, just getting your opinion on it. And that face-to-face about appointments that we've just spoken about there leads me perfectly onto the social media section of the podcast, because what I've noticed with you, Daniel, is you do a lot of videos of your face. Like you will be on the video and go, guys, listening to this, go and check Daniel out in a different industry from financial services and recruitment. Look how other industries do it and pick some bits out of there. Because I find the videos engaging, bright, colourful. How does that content help you? And how much engagement do you do on social media yourself, Daniel?
Yeah, I think it's great that you've seen it, because we, as you all know, a lot goes into behind those videos, right? So it was for me, it was a conscious decision to make sure the videos are out there. So not only will you see me, you'll see my associates doing it as well. So Cara, Liam, Adam, you'll see them doing it as well. I engage better with a video, so I will watch a video more than I will read a text when it comes to social media, because I think it's still that flicking through, isn't it? It's still that and actually you're much more of an expert than me, but our attention span's getting shorter and shorter. I think. We give you an example. I've got 3 children. The older 2 are 10 and 13, and we were playing a game of cards with them, and every time it got to the point where the cards needed to be shuffled and then redealt out, my son was picking up his phone and going, blah, blah, blah. I was like, Ethan, what are you doing?
That's crazy, isn't it?
Go put your phone in your bedroom, and because we're playing cards. This was like a 30-second wait probably. And that just made me think, that's where we're going, isn't it? That is where we're going. So again, I've gone off on a tangent, as I always do. But
no, love it.
I'm trying to get the videos a bit shorter, because I can talk, and I know I can go on, but trying to get the videos shorter. And I think in this first 6 months, I'm almost playing with it. So in terms of how much engagement I get, can really range. I can do one video and get loads of engagement on it. I can do another video that I personally think is better, and I'm like, oh, that's a great one, and I can get nothing off the back of it. I'm playing with it, and I've flirted with the idea of going into TikTok and Instagram and all these other things. But I'm a big believer in mastering something before you do too much, and I feel like we've still got a way to go to really lock down what works
See,
for us.
what works for you. And I'm glad there's two things I want to touch on there. The first thing was Daniel talked about. He does one video one day, does one the next day, and they're completely different engagement rates. The one that he thinks does really well flops. You're like, why did that flop? That was an incredible story about my son on his phone whilst he was shuffling cards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You think it's going to do well. Please, if you're listening to this, don't worry if a post doesn't do as well as you think. 2 weeks later, go and post it again. Go and try it again. It might just have been that on that day it didn't work. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is mastering one platform. Now, everybody knows LinkedIn's the best for recruitment, but what Daniel's doing is saying, right, I'm going to master LinkedIn, and you'll never be able to master something, but have a great understanding of it, and then move on to something else. Don't, as a mortgage advisor, if you're listening to this, please don't go, right, I need to do Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter or X. I'm going to do some YouTube as well. Then I'm going to look at Snapchat. It'll be paralysis by analysis. You'll be like, what do I do here? Well, go and take one platform, and I would always recommend Facebook as a mortgage advisor. Go and spend 6 months going deep on Facebook, and then start looking at Instagram, and then maybe look at LinkedIn 6 months later. But do exactly what Daniel's done. Daniel's seen that LinkedIn is the most lucrative platform for recruitment. He's going deep on that for the next 6 to 12 months, so however long it would be. So what do you feel you do different on social media, Daniel, that other companies don't? And what are your findings, winnings for you?
So what do I feel? So what I'd like to think, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, please, is that you mentioned my face, and that will be probably a bad thing for most people. But my face, I feel like I'm not hiding behind messages. I'm not hiding behind images that I've got off Google or created or whatever. I'm very much at least once, twice a week. My face is on there somewhere. I think it's really important to understand and know who you're talking to. I would interact better with someone if I received a message for them, because ultimately that's what we then do. Yeah, so we will drop a broker a message and talk to them about a great role that's in their area that we think they could be perfect for. But if that role, if that message lands and they go, that's Dan that did that Wake Up Wednesday thing the other week when he did this, or did his launch with the football shirt and whatever it may be that drops into their mind.
Yep.
If they feel like they know me a bit better, they're more likely to reply to me. And I think the further
they're familiar with you, aren't they? They're much more likely to respond to that message if they've seen a piece of your content before.
Definitely. And the further we get into this, the more receptive our messages are. So if I look back, and I haven't done this, but if I look back to when I first started to now, I have no doubt that my reply rate will be better now than what it was 6 months ago. No doubt in my mind.
And that's because your videos aren't just informative. There's a bit of personality. I watched one before I came on the podcast, and it was almost like you were just stood on your phone and you had like the writing going behind you, and you're like, I'm looking at a role now, and I'm like, it's just something it just looks a bit different. Because for me, before speaking to somebody like yourself and Marcus at NRG Resource, these are people that are trying to do something a bit different. Recruitment to me beforehand was, we have a job, it's a mortgage broker, 40 grand per year plus commission, please call me if you need it. You know what I mean? That's a post, and I'm looking at it going, there's no reason for me as a mortgage broker to contact you. But if I see a post of Daniel with a football shirt and it's a club that I know of and it sparks a conversation, then 6 months later, I remember Daniel, he sent me a message now. It's worth sparking up that conversation between us.
Yeah, I think that. And then the second thing for me is I'd like to think that it's not all me. So I will be relatively active on commenting on people's posts, and whether it's just a like or a little comment, a thumbs up, a care, thingamajiggy, whatever they do on it. I just think, I do that genuinely because I am interested in people. I love people. I'm interested in what they do. I love seeing people do well. Whether it's I've helped them get there or had nothing to do with it, or they've blanked me 5 times, but they've still done well. I like to see people do well. So I think it's really important to say well done, to say congratulations, to say keep going, whatever it may be, or don't worry about that. We all get knocked back. I think it's really important to do that. And sometimes you might be the only person that does that, and that you never know what that means to someone. We all see those posts that have like 0 likes on them, and I always think, let me like that. Let me give them a bit of momentum. Let me make them feel like someone is watching them, because we've all been there.
Such a nice way of thinking it.
You've
Yeah.
got nothing about nothing at all.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you a question in a moment. Instead of asking the strategy question, I've got a question in mind. But before we ask that, we like to donate £10 to a charity of your choice to say thank you for coming on. Which charity did you want us to make the donation to?
I guess in talking about making people's days better, etc., Mind would be someone that I think would be good to that, please.
Fantastic. We'll make that donation for you. Now, before we jumped on the podcast, we spoke about the strategy question. So the normal one that we ask is we're going to pretend that you've moved to the north of Scotland, you've got a laptop and a mobile phone with an internet connection. What would you do to start generating mortgage business? Daniel actually said, as long as I had my phone, I'd be recording videos, which is exactly what we've just spoken about.
Yeah.
I'm going to flip this now and ask a slightly different question. So you've moved to the north of Scotland, you've got your laptop, your mobile phone, your internet connection, you're doing these videos, you're speaking to people, you're messaging them. Listening to what you just spoke about, how do I, as a mortgage broker, deal with being rejected by so many introducers and still comment enthusiastically and engage enthusiastically with people? How do you overcome that?
I love that. So it's that, and it takes me back to my role as a DSD actually as well. So talking to brokers about self-generating their own appointments within an estate agency.
Okay.
And that's one big success that we had in the area that I worked. And it's about 2 things, loads of things, but 2 things. One, not taking yourself too seriously, right? So rejection ultimately is the word that you've used there. There are different levels of rejection, and we I used to speak about that. But none of the rejection that you get is personal rejection. So none of it is I don't like you, Chris. That's why I'm not doing it. Now, if you get one of them, then fine, move on. But most of them aren't. I don't like.
Hardly ever hear that.
It's just you haven't done enough to convince me that you're the right person for me yet. That's all I really hear when it's a no. So it's not personal.
Okay.
They don't hate you. They just either don't understand enough about what you're talking about, or you haven't done a good enough job of explaining it to them yet. And the other thing is, every no, and this sounds really cheesy, so I'm going to say it anyway, but every no, and we've all heard it, it's just one step closer to a yes, right? So you will get no's. If you've got yes to everything, you're doing something wrong. You're either too cheap, too easy, or I don't know. But if you're getting yes to absolutely everything,
I see what you mean. Yeah,
you're giving too much away, or you're not charging enough for your service, and you probably need to think about how to get some more no's to make the yeses a little bit more lucrative. So just don't worry about it.
Crazy, isn't it?
You get no's. It is what it is. We all get no's.
Yeah, you're going to get the. And if you're going to do that self-employed role where you need to get your own leads, you're going to get quite a few no's. But I always liken it to when you're trying to find an introducer from an estate agent is if you introduce yourself on social media and you have a chat with them via the messaging about football or whatever it might be, is they won't pass you business that week. They're not going to give you the automatic yes. But if you like their post, you comment on their post, you interact with them, when that other mortgage broker is either on holiday, can't place a case, or they have a bit of an issue with them, the first person they're going to think of is you. So it's like you say, there might be 10 no's. Are you ready for an introducer? You're ready for introducer. But then that one time you position yourself perfectly and they go, Sarah, who we normally refer to, she's actually off on holiday. So can you take this case? You do a smashing job and they're like, right, we're going to split 50-50 between Daniel and Sarah now.
Absolutely. It just take one bad day, one time for them to go, all right, let's just see. It just, no's are inevitable. If you're not getting no's, you're doing something wrong.
Love it. That's the perfect way to end the podcast. Daniel, thank you so much. There's been so much knowledge in there. I know so many people are going to find it really interesting about the difference between either hiring an admin and another broker, working out what you want from your business, those self-employed roles, and talking about social media. It's been incredible. Thank you very much for coming on. Where's the best place for people to connect with you, Daniel, if they want to reach out and have a chat to you?
This will be no surprise. LinkedIn. Yeah, find this on LinkedIn and drop us a message. Yeah, so I love talking to people. Just drop me a message. Even if you're not looking for a job, drop me a message. It's great just to connect and talk to people.
See your content. So Daniel's surname is Clow. Daniel Clow. You'll see him on LinkedIn, but we'll also pop his LinkedIn profile in the show notes as well, so you can have a little look at them there.
That's
Daniel,
nice.
thank you very much for your time and have a great rest of the day.
Brilliant. Cheers, Chris.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.